हमें अपने मन को हमेशा संतुलित रखना है। इसी में हमारा आत्म विकास समाया हुआ है। त्वयि मे सर्वं ॐ ॐ आत्मनि मे त्वं ॐ ॐ स्मरे स्मरे ॐ ॐ चित्तं शामे शामे ॐ स्मराणि सोऽहं ॐ ॐ शान्तं चिन्मयम् ॐ स्वतस्थं केवलम् ॐ स्मराणि शुद्धम् ॐ Okay, so we move on to Sutra 50 today. Since there was a gap, we will recap a little about what we discussed in 49. So in Sutra 49, we saw that the Buddhi Sattva or the Sattva has become so pure that as if it can reflect back the Purusha. So it has attained a kind of purity which is equivalent to Purusha. When that happens, then what happens is that the yogi who has got this kind of clarity and this kind of purity, he attains the power of action of any kind. And he also attains the power of knowledge, acquiring knowledge of any topic he wishes to. So the word we saw last time, they used the word sarvagnyata and you know the usual words which are normally used for God, the omnipotence, omniscient, and omnipresent kind of things. They are the adjectives which are used. So these adjectives are also applicable here because he attains the highest power. And we also saw that it is very difficult to conceive of such a state of being, such a state of yogi who has attained this kind of power, this kind of knowledge. So now, once that has been attained, now that is the highest possible attainment in terms of action. Now, there cannot be better action than that, or there cannot be more action than that. The ultimate has been reached in field of action. Ultimate has been reached in the terms in the field of knowledge. Now, it doesn't mean that the yogi is going to acquire these powers for use it in personal way or for personal gratification because he is beyond all that now. So why what these words sarvagnyatva are describing a certain state where if he so wishes, then he can do anything, or if he so wishes, he can know anything. That kind of possibilities are now existing in him. So after that, what? After that, what? So after that, according to yoga, no matter what we attain in terms of knowledge, no matter what we attain in terms of attainments, even if we become the most powerful people, a person in the on the earth, even then there will be a limitation because still all that will be within the realm of mind, in realm of buddhi, in realm of world, in realm of prakriti. So as long as this prakriti is there, as long as the mind is there, there's a possibility of mischief. There's a possibility of falling back, sliding back into the old patterns of behavior. So that's why the warnings are there. Now, after telling us about this highest power attainable, what is the next step? The next step is Kaivalya. Because whatever is to be attained in this world, that has been attained. Now, what is remaining is only liberation, setting oneself permanently free. This liberation is called moksha. In yoga, it is called Kaivalya. and in Buddhism it is called nirvana. Mukti it is called. Various ways it is, described. In terms of bhakti, it is known as, becoming one with universal Atma or Paramatma. So various terms are used for, or various expressions are used to describe this final state, which is being talked about in today's sutra. But how that state will be attained, that is the most important thing, because having attained this higher state, now what he has to do, that is the important thing. So this sutra reads, Tad Vairagyatapi Dosha bija kshaye Kaivalyam. How the Kaivalya will be attained? Tad Vairagyatapi. Tad, tad is referring to the powers which has been attained, which have been attained by yogi. So all the siddhis, all the powers which yogis has attained, they are referred to as tad. So if we look at the Hindi translation of this sutra, उसमें उसमें मतलब किसमें, जो पहले की जो सिद्धियां हैं उसमें, और पहले की सिद्धि का नाम क्या है? विशोका. सी वॉट एवर स्टेट योगी हैज अटेन्ड, दैट इज नोन एज विशोका. विशोका मीन्स in where there is absence of pain. Ashok is also in the same sense used. Ashok word refers to that, where there is no pain, there is no suffering, that is Ashok. Same way Vishoka. So Vishoka is a technical name of this siddhi, where a yogi has become totally free and he is free from any kind of pain. So having attained that state, in that also if there is a Vairagya, then what will happen? If he uses that Vairagya, if he exercises that Vairagya, then the seed of mischief or Dosha bija kshaya Kaivalya. So then all the seeds of mischief, all the seeds of pain, all the seeds of Kleshas, they will get destroyed. And once they are destroyed, then that will be the state of Kaivalya. So Kaivalya is what? Destruction of all the Kleshas. But how the Kleshas will get destroyed? How this Dosha bija kshaya will take place? Along with that, mind also has to go, because Dosha bija, which is Kleshas, they are part of the structure. Dr. Jaydev often used to say that it is very unfortunate that we are born with a structural defect. We are born with a structural defect, and that cannot go away unless the structure itself is destroyed. सोच के देखो कि कोई एक बिल्डिंग बनी है, बहुत सुंदर बिल्डिंग है, लेकिन उसके अंदर कुछ ऐसे कंस्ट्रक्शन में फॉल्ट रह गया है. तो अब वो एक बार फॉल्ट बन गया, तो जब तक बिल्डिंग नहीं टूटेगी तब तक वो फॉल्ट वैसे ही रहने वाला है, क्योंकि अगर वो फॉल्ट को ठीक करेंगे तो ठीक नहीं हो सकता. जब तक बिल्डिंग को तोड़ेंगे नहीं तब तक वो फॉल्ट ठीक नहीं हो सकता. तो उसी तरीके से हम लोग जब पैदा हुए तो हमारी पर्सनालिटी में कुछ डिफेक्ट्स हैं. वी आर बॉर्न विथ सर्टेन स्ट्रक्चरल डिफेक्ट्स. And what are these structural defects? These are kleshas. So unless the structure itself is destroyed or it is vanishing, now according to, see, we have to understand, according to Sankhya, something which is in existence cannot be destroyed. It only changes its forms. So we have, at some point earlier, we had talked about what are the fundamental scientific principles which Sankhya upholds. So one of the principle is conservation of law, energy, law of conservation of energy. Anything in the universe, something is there in the universe, it cannot be destroyed. And that is the position of physics also. What Sankhya says, physics also talks about the same thing, the law of conservation of energy. So everything which is there in the universe, it can change its forms, but it cannot be completely destroyed. So kleshas also cannot be completely destroyed. They are part of the mind. But what about the Kaivalya, when the mind is getting disintegrated? So mind is not really getting destroyed, but mind is merging in its to original cause. So it will be like, we talk about, I had given the example of water. पानी को अगर हम लेके गर्म करेंगे तो भाप बन के उड़ जाता है. तो पानी का जो स्ट्रक्चर है वैसा का वैसा रहता है. Water remains a compound. Water remains a compound. So it can be retrieved back from the, steam which is there. Or if it is there in the clouds, it will come back in the form of water. So by heating, the water is getting changed into the different form and it is going into the different form. But here the water is not changing its original structure. But imagine if water is separated through a chemical process in a laboratory where the oxygen is released from the water and hydrogen is released from the water, then what will happen? The oxygen will go to the oxygen part of the universe and the hydrogen will go to the hydrogen part of the universe. That is what is going to happen. So something similar happens when the separation between the Purusha and Prakriti takes place, or the Buddhi and Purusha takes place, or Sattva and Purusha takes place, then Sattva goes back into the original Prakriti form. So it will merge into the original cause from where it has come. The way we are not in our original form. It is a distorted form of Prakriti. Prakriti in us is in distorted form, in a disproportionate form it is there. We are composed of Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, physical body, mind, Buddhi. It is composed of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas in different proportions. What if we feel that the Sattva should become equal to Tamas and Tamas should become equal to Rajas? All three should come into the equal proportions. Then everything which is manifested will have to disappear. It cannot be there. Everything in the universe is there because there is a disproportion in the Sattva, Tamas and Rajas. So when gunas are in disproportion, then only manifestation is possible. Without that, the manifestation is not possible. So we are also kind of manifestation. Our body is also a kind of manifestation. So when it is going and merging into original cause, that means it will be no longer in the manifest states. The gunas will go into the equilibrium. That will be the state. So that will be in case of the individual who is attaining that kind of liberation or Kaivalya. So if you recall the discussion in chapter 2 on Sutra 22, Pratartham pratinastam api anastam tadanya sadharanatvat. In case of the Purusha, where the Prakriti is discarded and Purusha attains liberation, in that case, the Prakriti goes back to the original form. But for the rest of the people who have not attained Kaivalya, the Prakriti continues to be there for providing experiences. So anyone who has attained liberation, for him, Prakriti may not be operative. But for all of us who have not attained liberation, for us, the Prakriti is very much there. Prakriti is ever going to be there as long as somebody has not attained liberation. So these are the laws which are there in the Sankhya that has to be kept in mind. So now what happens when this kind of great achievement has been there, that Buddhi and Sattva, Buddhi Sattva and Purusha has become equal. So that is the time yogi also realizes that no matter what kind of knowledge I have, no matter what kind of power I have, but still that power, that mind, it is still within the Prakriti. It is within the mind. सब कुछ हो गया लेकिन माइंड तो इंटैक्ट है, स्ट्रक्चर तो इंटैक्ट है, मतलब डिफेक्ट तो नहीं गया है. अगर बिल्डिंग वही की वही है, जैसे हमारा माइंड है वो वही का वही है, तो जो उसमें जो डिफेक्ट है, उसमें जो दोष का बीज है, वो बीज तो इंटैक्ट ही है. तो वो अगर बीज इंटैक्ट है तो कभी भी वो मिसचीफ क्रिएट कर सकता है, कभी भी वो प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट कर सकता है. If at all we want to rectify that, if you want to get rid of that, if you want to eliminate that, then the structure itself has to go. So having this kind of thought, yogi recognizes that even such a high state of mind, even such a high state of attainment has got certain limitation. And that limitation is that he has not still attained that Sarupa Sthiti, that is Chetna Sthiti, which is there in the Purusha. So he is interested in attaining that. So how he can attain that? So he thinks like that, and when he sees this defect, he is full of Vairagya. And through Vairagya, he can attain that final state. So by renunciation of even that Vishoka attainment comes liberation on account of destruction of the seed of evil. That is what is the meaning of Sutra. So Sutra says, by renunciation of even that high Vishoka attainment comes liberation on account of destruction of the seed of evil. So the seed of evil has to be really understood little well, although we have discussed Kleshas in great detail, but little more on the Kleshas will be not out of place. So this Dosha Bija Kshaya And then we will look at the Vairagya. First, we look at the Kleshas. We all know 5 Kleshas are there. And as we saw that they are kind of personality defect. We are born with them, and as long as our minds are existing, even when we die, the Kleshas are there. Even when we die, Kleshas are there, and Kleshas are responsible for creating new lives, and they are responsible for the new birth, migration, transmigration. So even after death, the Kleshas persist, because yoga believes in the theory of transmigration. हम लोगों का ये एक ही बर्थ नहीं है, बहुत सारे जन्म हमने पहले भी लिए हैं, आगे भी बहुत सारे जन्म लेंगे, ऐसा योग और सांख्य मानता है. तो जब आदमी मर भी जाता है तो भी क्लेश उसके पीछे रहते हैं, और क्लेश की एनर्जी की वजह से ही वो नया बर्थ लेता है. और इवन इन न्यू बर्थ द क्लेशास आर ऑपरेटिव, एंड दैट इज द रीजन यू विल फाइंड दैट so many millions of children are born on the earth, and each child has got different kind of personality, different kind of attitude, different kind of thinking patterns. So right from their childhood you can see the differences. The differences will not only be in the appearances, but in the way things are perceived, the way person reacts. This is very evident. So when we talk to biologists, anthropologists, they will say it is because of the instinct. So we have inherited that from our ancestors. But then that doesn't really explain everything. So there are again very valid kind of questions related to these instincts, which are demonstrated by even the young infants. And if you are carefully observing, you will find very early in the infant stage of the child, you can see the raga, dvesha, abhinivesh operating, or even ego operating. Interestingly, when my granddaughter was hardly a few months, I just wanted to experiment with her. So once she was playing with com, and I had taught her what the word no means. So very gently, very nicely, I said no, no, no. So she stopped. She looked at me, and then she gave a smile. And then again she started doing that. So I said no, 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 no. So again she stopped. 3-4 times when I said no, 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 she stopped doing whatever she was doing. She started looking at me. She smiled. But when 5th time when I said no, 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 she said there was a big sound of protest. So her ego was asserting herself. So understand that few months old child, how he can be assertive about his ego and his personality. So it is very much clearly there in the form of that self-consciousness. And when that self-consciousness is obstructed, there is a reaction, and that reaction is coming from the kleshas. So in such an early stage also one can see the presence of kleshas even in such an infant. हम लोग के भारतीय परंपरा में बोलता है बच्चे तो भगवान का रूप है. ऐसा बोलने के लिए बोलते हैं बच्चे भगवान का रूप है. कभी बच्चों के साथ रह के देखो, उनके साथ पूरा 2-3 दिन एक साथ में रह के देखो जैसे माँ रहती है, तभी मालूम पड़ेगा कि बच्चे भगवान का रूप है कि वो क्लेशों का रूप भी उनमें है. So we can very evidently see that they have the presence of these kleshas. So that is yoga's way of telling. And then there are various kinds of valid arguments about the presence of the kleshas. For example, we had discussed about abhinivesh. Now, why there is a fear of death? Psychologically speaking, we have fear of only that thing which we have experienced. Earlier, we have experienced certain things, and we have experienced some disagreeable sensations, some pain, some suffering. Then perhaps we will have dislike towards it, and we will be afraid of that. But then once we are born, till now we have not died. We have not experienced death. But if we have not experienced death, then why we are afraid of death? From where that fear has come? There's an inherent fear. Now we have grown up, so one may say that okay, we have grown up, we have seen so many deaths, so we are afraid of death. but but as I told you, even small infant who has not experienced what death is, even that small child is afraid of death. That shows that Abhinivesh is there. So from where this Abhinivesh has come. So one can only say that maybe in past life one has experienced death, and that's why one is so afraid of death. So there's a transmigration of soul. We have earlier been born in many species, and we have experienced death in the earlier forms. So perhaps that is why we have this fear, tremendous fear of death. You know, the definition of Abhinivesh is also very, very, very peculiar. Vidusho api tatha rudo Abhinivesh. What is Abhinivesh? What is fear of death? Even in the most learned and wise people also this fear is seen. It is so strong. Person may have studied scriptures, he might have studied so much. Even he will have the fear of death. So from where that fear has come. So these are various kinds of arguments which are there. So five kleshas are there: avidya, asmita, rag, dvesh, and abhinivesh. Avidya is basically that because of which we have totally wrong conception about the world and about ourselves. So avidya has been defined in a way where anitya, shuchi, dukkha, natmasu, nitya, shuchi, sukha, atma, khyati, avidya. To consider something which is impermanent as permanent, something which is impure as pure, something which is painful as pleasure, something which is non-self as self, that constitutes avidya. So that is how we are living our life. We have got very wrong kind of notions. We think that it is possible to attain tremendous peace of mind in the world. We can be happy in the world. That world is somehow world will favor us. We'll be always happy. Various kinds of false notions we have, which are coming from avidya. Even Buddha traces the bhava chakra to avidya. So the ultimate cause of pratitya samutpad, as it is called in Buddhism, the pratitya samutpad, the 12 factors which are there. So bhava chakra, as they call it. So the original cause of bhava chakra is avidya. That is the primary cause. This we have discussed earlier also. So not then second is the ego, asmita. Because of avidya, asmita is there, and because of asmita, the raga, dvesha, attachment and hatred is there, and because of that, the abhinivesh is there. We are afraid of losing what we have. We are not afraid of losing what we do not have, because we cannot be afraid of in that age. But if something we have fear that we may lose it. So that is what is abhinivesh. So life is also very precious. We have it, so we are afraid of losing it. Possessions are there, status quo is there, comfort is there, material possessions are there, capacities are there, friends are there, family is there, houses are there, material possessions are there. We have them, so we are always wanting to protect, remain in status quo, always possess them. We don't want to lose them. That is how the abhinivesh is guiding all our actions. And raga and dvesha, they are guiding our life day in, day out. I had told you that do this exercise maybe several times. Every day morning when we get up until we go to sleep, whatever we are doing, take any action and ask why we are doing it. Why we are doing it. You'll often find that we are doing it because we want to attain some kind of pleasure. We want to maximize our happiness. We want to be happy. We want to have pleasure. That is the guiding principle of our actions. And at any cost, we want to avoid pain. कोई भी action ले लो. We go to office. Why we go to office? We want to earn money. We do several things in life. Why are we doing it? And if we really think deeply about it, we'll find that rag and dvesha, these kleshas are all the time guiding us. All the time they are operating in our personality. So we are guided by likes and dislikes. Most of the time, 99.99% of our actions are guided by likes and dislikes. We do things we like, we avoid things we dislike. This is the reality of life. This is the fact of life. Sometimes, even when we know that what we like is bad for us, still we will pursue that. In spite of intellectually knowing that it is not good for us, even then we do it because the like is there, because we like it. So a person fond of eating, he may be obese, he might be suffering from diabetes, he might be suffering from various ailments, but he cannot control his diet, he cannot control his food. Because he likes certain food, he will go for that kind of food. And a person who's a alcohol addict, he knows intellectually, he knows the alcohol addiction is bad, but still he goes for it. So this is the power of klesha. Kleshas make us do what is not good for us, what is not good for our well-being, which is going to harm us, which is going to create problems for us. Even such actions we are forced to do under the influence of kleshas. So that is why it is called dosha bija. इस सूत्र में जो वर्ड आया है तद वैराग्यात अपि दोष बीज क्षय कैवल्यम. दोष का बीज है वो, बिकॉज इट विल मेक अस डू थिंग्स विच विल क्रिएट पेन फॉर अस. It will make us do things which are not good for us. That is why these kleshas are to be destroyed. They have to be eliminated. But we cannot eliminate them without, destroying the structure. And we are too attached to the structure also. We are too attached to our body. We are too attached to our mind. We are too attached to whatever we think are our ideas, our thoughts, even our intellectual capacities. We don't want to lose them. So any idea, any suggestion of losing something of this kind, immediately it creates resistance in our mind. That is why the kleshas have to be understood. So in case of kleshas, I'll give you an example. How kleshas, now for example, we have been seriously working on our personality and we have been trying to reduce our kleshas. How do we reduce our kleshas? We know that, for example, I'm getting angry again and again. So I need to work on my anger. Somebody thinks that he is very afraid. He's all the time apprehensive. He's all the time fearful of certain happenings. And because of that, he's not able to freely act. He's not able to do what he wants to do because the fear is there. In anger, the person loses perspective. So he loses friends. He loses opportunity. He loses health. So various kinds of kleshas are operating in our personality and they are creating problems for us. So if we have got too much anger and resentment in our mind, then we are not at ease, we are not at peace. And because of that, we will not never be happy. We'll all the time we will be committing mistakes and as a result we will be suffering. So having understood this, suppose if we decide, now a person decides that because I get angry very fast all the time, I'll be very watchful and I will not allow myself to get angry. I'll be always aware. So, because this is the method of yogi. The method of yogi is to be aware. As soon as one becomes aware that I am getting angry now, immediately he does something to come out of it. As soon as a person becomes aware that I'm becoming afraid of something or my mind is, becoming weak, immediately he will do something to come out of it. So this is an effort towards personality development. This is an effort towards growing in strength. So seriously, one is doing. Now, it may so happen that for many months, one doesn't get angry because of his efforts. It may so happen that when one is not negative at all, one is not afraid at all, one is very confident, one is very powerful, one is feeling that sense of confidence for many months. Does that mean the kleshas are not there? Does that mean the kleshas are destroyed? No. They are just lurking behind this power of discrimination. As soon as there is an opportunity, as soon as there is an opportune moment, these kleshas will spring forth in a very great force. So that is why the kleshas have been categorized. We had discussed this in great detail earlier when we were doing Sutra 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5 of chapter 2, where we talked about the 4 stages of kleshas. Prasupta Tanu Vichhinna Udara. Kleshas may get vichinna, interrupted. Interrupted by what? Interrupted by our efforts, interrupted by our tapa, interrupted by our yoga, interrupted by being very careful. We are very careful about our mental state. So for some time, we may press, we may control the kleshas, and the kleshas may not manifest. But that doesn't mean they have been destroyed. They are structurally there and they are waiting for the right moment to come forth. And that's why if suddenly one may lose control of the mind and start doing which he has decided not to do. This happens, this often happens. Anybody who has seriously tried to control certain personality traits, he will have experienced this, that after, even in case of food, so many times we are following, we fast, we avoid the food we don't want to eat, or wrong kind of food we are trying to avoid, food we are attached to we want to avoid. So for few months we are able to avoid. Then suddenly one day you will find that in a weak moment we have given into the temptation. We have fallen. We have not been able to control. We start doing wrong thing again. So kleshas have this kind of hold on our mind. So what is the function of klesha? The function of klesha is to distort the perception, take us away from the reality, create wrong notions in our mind, create wrong perceptions in our mind. So kleshas make us think wrongly. They make us think totally negatively or totally differently than what reality is. So always it is difficult to maintain reality. It is difficult to maintain that awareness of reality. That is why they are called dosha bija. A very interesting example I'll give you. Pyramids are there in Egypt. So as the excavation was going on, it so happened few years back, it has appeared in newspaper also, and I think one or two more people who have they have taken note of it and they have made a story of it. We'll talk about it later sometime. But then this report appeared that scientists, this archaeologists, they found some seeds preserved in the one great pyramid. So when they excavated the pyramid, lots of things were available, but they found certain seeds. Now they when they tasted, when they decided the lifespan of those seeds, these seeds were 5,000 years old. 5,000 years old seeds were there. So they were really wondering, and kept in pyramid, they were really preserved well. They were intact. They were not at all distorted. They were not at all spoiled. So these scientists, they tried to sow those seeds in the earth. And to their surprise, these 5,000 years old seeds, they sprouted, they germinated, and the plants came out of those seeds, 5,000 years old seeds. So if the seeds were preserved well, then seeds have the capacity of growing. Anytime they can grow. Kleshas are like that seed. So if you read the Vyas Bhashya of this particular sutra, there this example has been given that these seeds have to be brought to burn state. Dagda bij avastha mein seeds ko lana. What is Dagda bij avastha? The seeds will lose their power of germination only when they are heated. We do it at home. You know, in case of even in case of potatoes, we find if the potatoes have not been treated with the ultraviolet rays in a godown, if you bring potatoes at home and you keep them for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, they will start germinating. So you will find that the potato has started growing. At home also it happens. So what the potato sellers and the potato warehouse holders, they do, they treat the potatoes with rays, with heat. So the germs in the potato die and then the potato can be preserved for a long time. Same way, the seeds can be preserved for a long time if they are completely heated. So that is the Dagda Bij Avastha. Otherwise, if the seeds are intact, they can sprout anytime. They can germinate anytime. The water is given and heat is there and moisture is there, the seeds will germinate. Kleshas are like that. Or kleshas are like that. We may think that they are, no, after a very long time, I have not got angry. very long time, my mind is very calm and stable. I'm not disturbed since last 6 months. That is not the guarantee that next moment we are not going to get disturbed, because the kleshas are there, the seeds are there. So one has to be very careful. And that's why, with lot of wisdom, the prajna, the eighth step of the Arya Ashtangic Marga of Buddha, that is what is prajna. In yoga, we saw prajna of 7 kinds. Tasya saptadha pranta bhumi prajna. That prajna has to come. And this sutra, previous sutra, is talking about that prajna. And this sutra also, the same prajna is now continuing. With this prajna, only yogi can really, have that vairagya. So he can say that even though it is high state, I am not interested. I don't want any power. I don't want any knowledge. He is willing to give up all the power, all the knowledge for sake of nirvana, for sake of kaivalya. So he has to exercise supreme renunciation. Supreme, here they have not used the word supreme renunciation or para vairagya. Here they have used only vairagya. Tad vairagya. Tad vairagyadapi. उसमें भी वैराग्य होने से दोष बीज का क्षय होता है और कैवल्य आ जाता है. So when one is renouncing even that high state, then only the kleshas or the fault can get destroyed, and ultimately the person can attain the kaivalya or mukti. That is the suggestion given here. So we have to understand that when we are working on ourselves, kleshas are very deep rooted, and it is ultimate work is on the kleshas. If we can control our kleshas, everything is controlled. Nothing is uncontrolled. If the kleshas are controlled, if the kleshas are not controlled, then everything goes haywire. That is why the most important work in yoga is to weaken the kleshas. Dr. J, they always used to say that whatever we do, whatever we discuss, even when we used to go give some lecture, or we will undertake some session at the Yoga Institute. Some important lecture will be there. Then after conclusion of certain activities, doctor would always ask these questions. What about the kleshas? Where is the effect on the kleshas? Are we able to look at them? Are we able to control them? So kleshas are most important aspect in yoga which needs to be covered. And this misconception that yoga means asana, pranayam, bandhas, mudras, meditation, they are there. They are part of yoga. But why asana, pranayam, bandha, mudra? So that the kleshas can be reduced. This is the most important aspect that we need to understand. So now, while working on the kleshas, while working on this sutra, I had just written down few things. I'll just read it, and then you can understand it. This Sattva Purusha Anyata Khyati, which has been referred to in previous sutra, or Viveka Khyati, as it is called, Viveka Khyati. Viveka Khyati represents the highest in terms of knowledge, and it is equivalent to the highest 4 stages of Samprajnata Samadhi, which means the kleshas are completely known and mastered. Karmas are completely known and mastered and made ineffective. One has attained freedom from any kind of bondage or bindings of vasanas, as the kleshas and karmas do not operate now. In absence of klesha, the vasanas do not or cannot arise. Highest possible knowledge about the drashya, that is knowable, or prakriti, has been gained, and also about the nature of the difference between buddhi and purusha has been attained. Remaining in such a stage is fraught with danger of sliding back. So now one has to take a last and final plunge towards the separation of buddhi and purusha. The ultimate technique to attain this is not doing something but rejecting and turning away from the knowledge and letting go of the mind itself to be able to attain the kaivalya or liberation. Why? Even the highest knowledge can only be there due to mind. So we may have knowledge, we may have power, but it is there in the mind. So mind is still intact. And as long as the mind is there, the problem will be persisting. So one has to even give up this mind itself. So mind remaining intact entails the risk of sliding back to the old cycle of pain and pleasure, life and death. Thus, through Para Vairagya, even these kleshas which are there in the form of Dosha bija, they can be destroyed. This is the idea. They have to be destroyed through involution process. So now Para Vairagya. What is Vairagya? Vairagya is objectivity. Vairagya has got two types. Apar Vairagya, Para Vairagya. This we have discussed in chapter 1. Sutra 15 and 16 talk about Vairagya and Para Vairagya. Here what they are talking about is Para Vairagya, Supreme Renunciation. You see, the beautiful thing about life is that the person who has got more Vairagya, he will attain everything possible. He will get everything possible. Because when there is a Vairagya, there is everything available. When there is a clinging, when there is a hankering, when we are clinging to things, when we are running after things, perhaps things will elude us. They will run away from us. But if we are totally indifferent, if we have total Vairagya towards things, things will fall in place. Automatically, many things will start happening. This is the secret of life. This is the secret which yoga tells us. So always having that objective attitude, always having this attitude of Vairagya. One should not be clinging to anything. Attachments are the real problem for all of us. Krishna. So when we talk about Char Arya Satya, the four noble truths of Buddha, so the first truth is about the pain. And the pain is there because desire is there. Clinging is there. Because the attachment is there. If the attachment is not there, pain cannot be there. This is the surmise. So same principle is there in Patanjali also. As long as craving is there, the kleshas, if raga is there, the dvesha is not far off. If dvesha is there, then abhinivesha is not very far off. So all the kleshas are producing each other, strengthening each other. And that's why this ultimate technique of yoga is Para Vairagya, through which one can really attain the liberation. So now here, what we have to understand is that I gave you this example of seed. Seeds are very powerful and they can germinate any time. So we have to think that there is a mischief in us which can always create problems for us. So one has to be always watchful. And with this watchful kind of attitude, if we can go on giving our attachments, if we can go on giving or reducing our attachments and raga and dvesha, the more we are able to do it, the better life we can lead. The more happiness and joy, the more happiness and harmony will be there. If we give up attachments, that gives us freedom. And that gives us freedom and then gives us harmony and peace. If we cling to things, if we are hankering after things, then we are sowing the seeds for pain for ourselves. So that is what is the message of the sutra, that this Vairagya idea has to be always kept. That is why the most general means of attaining yoga is Abhyasa and Vairagya. Bhagavad Gita also talks about the same thing. Bhagavan Krishna also tells to Arjuna, when Arjuna says, oh, it is very difficult, what you are saying is very difficult. So Krishna says, yes, it is difficult, but through Abhyasa and Vairagya, you can do it. That is the message, Patanjali's message, and that is Krishna's message. So these are few thoughts related to the sutra. If there are questions.
So when you say that at the final stage, even he gives up the mind, so then he becomes a Jivan Mukta, right?
No. When he gives up the mind, he goes into the Kaivalya. Then mind also gets disintegrated. Jivan Mukta is where Jivan Mukta is the stage just prior to that, where mind is intact, but mind is not causing any harm because yogi is able to exercise that Viveka. So his body is intact, his mind is intact, but he's totally liberated. He's not doing anything which will bind him. So that state will be called as a Jivan Mukta. Jivan Mukta is a state prior to Kaivalya. It will be at the most, it can be described as Sampragnata Samadhi. The highest Sampragnata Samadhi is Jivan Mukta. Viveka Khyati is also highest Sampragnata Samadhi state. So the four stages of Sampragnata Samadhi, Vitarka, Vichara, Ananda and Asmita. When Asmita Anugat Samadhi has been attained, that is the highest state where the person knows now the difference between Prakriti and Purusha. what is right, what is wrong, what is real, what is unreal, what is permanent, what is impermanent. All that knowledge he has acquired. Now he has got tremendous discrimination. Such a state would be called as Jivan Mukta.
Okay. And what is the difference between the Kaivalya and the Videha Mukta?
Videha Mukta is Kaivalya.
Is Kaivalya. Okay. So he is giving up the body also.
Then only the mind will get disintegrated.
Mind. Okay. 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 Even I was thinking that the mind nahi hai, to how will he be operating the body? Okay.
No, then he's going beyond. And when you don't need something, you give it up. Then you don't require it. It goes back. It goes back to the source.
So, sir, you said that when the highest level of that, when you say कि सत्व रजस का मतलब प्रकृति जब बैलेंस स्टेट में हो जाती है, okay? So tamas is also equivalent there, no? In the same proportion of. So
They
you
are
don't need
cancelling.
that 100% sattva that time. You need balance.
That time there is no predominance of guna, so there is no manifestation. Since there is no manifestation, there is no thinking person like you who will ask this question.
Right.
Any more questions? Yeah.
Niranjan, sorry, I was also listening today.
Yeah.
Yeah, the statement which you made saying that we all have a structural defects.
Yeah.
And that if I understood you correctly, you said the structures cannot be destroyed. Did I?
So structures, if so, we have got manufacturing defect. Structural defect is there. Now, if we want to get rid of this defect, then what we'll have to do? We have to destroy the structure itself.
Yes, but
because
at the same time,
without destroying the structure, you cannot get rid of the defect.
Yes, but at the same time, you said that the structure in nature cannot be destroyed; it can only change form.
So the structure called mind, it will change form and it will go into Prakriti.
Yeah, but then it will continue to hold on to some kleshas.
Not to that Purusha in whose case it has been destroyed. In other cases, it will continue.
Yes. So then, as long as it has kleshas, it can never be completely evolved.
So that is why the life has been going on. One Purusha attains liberation. In his case, the Prakriti doesn't operate. But in case of you and me, the Prakriti is operating. The kleshas are there in you and me. But the yogi who has attained liberation, in his case, it has stopped.
No, let me kind of understand it clearly. The person X has kleshas, which kind of continue to remain associated with his mind.
Yeah.
Right till, let's say, when you say destroy the structure, how does he reach that stage?
The mind disintegrates. The mind itself disintegrates. When the mind is not there, where's the question of klesha? The mind itself is not there now. In case of a yogi who has attained liberation, he gives up the mind, he gives up the body, he comes out of that cycle of Prakriti. So he is beyond Prakriti, he is beyond that limitation. And Prakriti is in its own form. So the Purusha gets liberated. So there is no mind. If the mind is not there, the kleshas are not there because kleshas are part of the mind. That is why this sutra says that mind also has to be given up. You see, there's a beautiful passage in Vyas Bhashya. I would recommend that once you reach home, you read that Vyas Bhashya. Once you read the Vyas Bhashya, things will become very clear.
Okay, but just to one more academic, this mind which is, in case of yogi, the mind is disintegrated. That remains in any kind of a form in the Prakriti.
No, who can know that what form it will take? Because that is beyond our minds also, that is beyond everything. It is in original form. So we do not know what that form is.
Right. Okay,
Prakriti,
thank you.
That is known as Sadrish Parinam of Prakriti. Where
Right.
it is in scientific language, it is known as unmanifest. So something which is not manifest, how we can talk about it? How, because we do not know what characteristics it has. Characteristics are there only in the manifested form. In an unmanifest form, there's nothing. Zero.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. It's a highly technical sutra, so I understand. Sharad, you asking this question is very natural.
Sir, you gave an example of, you correlated this to water getting, you gave two examples for water. One is it changes form, it becomes steam. And the other thing you said is water can decompose itself into hydrogen and oxygen, its original constituents.
Yeah.
So just to reinforce what Sharad Bhai was asking, if you assume that mind is water, in this case, mind will decompose into whatever hydrogen and oxygen in its origin form. We don't know what that is. It's unmanifested, whatever. But it's something similar to that, right? It's not water becoming steam, and steam also has a potential to become water again.
No, it will be the second case. So here it is as we are composition of two things. We are a compound of two things. What is that? What are the two things? The
Purusha and Prakriti.
And Purusha and Prakriti. So once this, once the mind is destroyed, then what will happen? Purusha gets established in consciousness, and Prakriti goes to original form, जो सत्व रजस तमस में चली जाती है. So water example I gave just to enforce the idea, just to create an imagination as to what must be happening at the final go. Exactly what. So you see, if we are doing peripheral kind of activity, जैसे हम लोग अभी आसन कर रहे हैं. See, for 1 hour when we are doing asana, the mind becomes very calm. The consciousness becomes very sharp. So this can be compared to the water changing form from liquid to gas. But then after once it is made cold again, it will come back to water form. So our minds are like that. They are changing form for a little while under the influence of yoga, but they go back to the original form again and again. But here in this sutra, they are not talking about this kind of change of form. They are talking about a permanent kind of change where the water is getting disintegrated into oxygen and hydrogen. So it will go back to what is the source of oxygen? The oxygen stock in the whole universe. What is the source of hydrogen? The hydrogen source stock of the universe. So they will go back. Again, they may form the molecules may come together, and again they may form. But no scientist has been able to tell how did the water come into existence? Why did this compound was formed? Nobody can tell that. So like somebody asked, why did Purusha and Prakriti come together? Nobody knows. Nobody knows why they came together. Just like the oxygen, hydrogen, why they united? Nobody knows it. No scientist in the world can tell you why water, hydrogen get unite to become an atom of water. No scientist can tell. This is the problem. So, any more questions?
Just one request, if you could just share a pic of what you read out, those few lines, that will be very good. You read out a few lines.
I just evening I was thinking about this sutra, so I just jotted down a few lines.
We can listen to your audio again and jot it down ourselves. But if you can share the pic of that,
I'll 2-3 minutes are there. I'll read it again.
So don't read it again, sir. I can listen to your recording again and can jot it down. No problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we leave it.
But you gave a wonderful example of that water and oxygen and hydrogen too. It's very easy to now.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Because otherwise we don't have any idea. This sutra is talking about something very fantastic. We cannot even imagine. So how do we imagine that? How do we really conceive in our mind what must be happening? For that, this example was given.